Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Hotline League. A very strange episode of Hotline League this week because we had LCS start, and then we had some really not great news come out today. So we'll be talking about both of those things on the show. But first off, let me introduce my co-host, Cubby. Cubby, how's it going?
Good. Let's see. We had LCS and of course challengers this week. So I've gone over all the games, but I think one challenger series, and then Champs Queue's back, which is kind of fun. I don't know if you plan on playing the new patch early at all, Palafox, over the next couple days, because I know that you guys will be on it this upcoming week. But I don't know. It's just good to have a week back, and I think that minus a few long pauses, it was a good week one for LCS. Yeah, a couple surprises, but I think it's all good.
Yeah, I know there were some technical issues, so I'm sure we can talk about that as well. But our guest for this evening is none other than NRG mid laner Palafox. Palafox, how are you?
Doing good. This weekend went 1-1, so that kind of honestly it went okay, kind of as expected. And I mean honestly the crowd was super nice. Like the crowd was really good this time around. It was actually like quite fun to play.
You say quite expected, but when Cubby released his power rankings last week, there were a lot of comments that were saying, "I can't believe NRG is so disrespected. Once again, they can never get any respect. They're going to go 2-0 this weekend and prove all of these people wrong." But you say the 1-1 was expected.
I think that I just I don't know. I was just hoping for more of like a hard fought battle with C9, but I think that we had some like communication and coordination issues, but it's the beginning of the split. Kind of have a new support, so that's a little bit different for us. It's not only just having a new support, it's the fact that we took a long break as well, like all of us.
Yeah.
But I kind of just expect that to get better for us as the split goes on, so.
Yeah, I'm sure things are just warming up. I mean, I think we saw probably a lot of mistakes and weird stuff going on from all aspects of the LCS this past weekend that we would not expect to see, in 3 or so weeks. So I'm sure everyone will be just getting into it. Of course, this show is brought to you by Alienware, so thank you so much to Alienware for sponsoring the episode. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what's happened in the last 3 days. So we obviously had LCS start, and we will have a lot of calls. That'll be, I assume, the majority of the focus for this evening will be LCS, people's hot takes, etc., etc. I think there's conversations we had around the viewership, which I think that, and I'm not saying this is my opinion, but I do think that the weekday fans or the people who believed in weekdays might feel a little vindicated by the fact that viewership is down from LCS Spring Split when the opening weekend where it was on the weekdays. I think there's a lot of different factors for that. Obviously, the league is 2 teams shorter and all that stuff, but despite some positive energy and hopefully viewership increases, I think that it is unfortunate that we did not see like a big explosion year over year. Obviously way up from summer, but that is often how spring is almost always ahead of summer. So
yeah.
And then the unfortunate news today is that there were 11% of Riot got laid off today. And or I guess I should say they're going to, and depending on the region that you are in, they can't do it all at once or whatever. But it's really unfortunate because there are a lot of people that are really great that are over there. I saw some misinformation or misunderstandings in the Twitch chat earlier around people who thought that these were mostly focused on Legends of Runeterra and the Riot Forge stuff, which I think were probably pretty strongly targeted. But there's a Reddit thread up on the subreddit right now that's just got a big list of a whole bunch of people who have announced that they have been let go. And I'll tell you all that I know several people on this list, including people that worked directly on the LCS every week or on esports in general. And I think it is the one thing I want to say before we get into the show, before we get into calls on this topic is I know that the league community often likes to be a little edgy. You know, we oftentimes get frustrated with Riot as a whole. I get frustrated with Riot as a whole all the time, and I'm very critical of them as a company. But I think it's important to realize that it was not like Riot that is getting owned today or anything like that. You know, it is Riot, in my opinion, failing these really talented people who should still have jobs. And I think for anybody who's around the scene for as long as I have been, you hear all the time about projects where you're like, wow, that just sounds like such a fucking waste of money. Why are they spending money on this? Why is their plan to do this? And oftentimes that stuff is a decision made on the leadership side that doesn't pan out. And then the people who usually pay the price for that type of thing are not the people who made the decisions, but oftentimes the people who are saying the same thing as all of us, which is, wow, they should not be wasting money on this. They should not be doing this or whatever. And so I just want to make sure that we're all being really respectful of the people who have lost their positions at the company today. You know, this is not like a moment to rag on them or to be like, aha, yeah, you know, they nerfed my champion, and so now this is like their game is dog shit now, and this is what's happening. Haha, they're losing money. Like, this is not what is the case today. So anyway, let's just be respectful as we go through the show. And as you see people online, you know, putting out well wishes or announcing that they're gone, please be supportive of those folks, because I can tell you, looking at this list, I personally know of many of them being really talented individuals who I would work with in a heartbeat. So let's just keep that in mind as we go through the show, and then hopefully on social media and everywhere else over the next couple of days and weeks. All right. All that being said, I do want to talk to Palafox a little bit before we get into calls. Cubby and I, we can dive in here. Cubby, I've just monologued for a little bit, so I don't know if you have any questions for Palafox about his opening week.
No, I actually do. Like, so I've talked with you about this like briefly, Palafox, but I think one of the cooler stories actually last summer was I remember a tweet you put out after the first round robin saying like, hey guys, like we're not where we want to be in the standings. Like, it's kind of on me. I'm going to be better for the second one. And I think that by the end of playoffs and like that second round robin, you ended up being one of, if not the strongest mid laners that we had like in playoffs. It was great. I always love a good growth arc. A, when people accept responsibility, and then B, when they do something with it, you know? And you've also like kind of been open about talking about like your mindset. Like, I know in the past, like public, you've said like, you know, dating someone help with your communication. Like, do you have like any like kind of big picture, like, hey, like this is kind of like where my head's at for this split? Like anything that like you're really working on, or like anything like from, you know, going international and like having that experience, you know, coming back to NA, like that you feel like it like really kind of helped you and the teammates kind of for this year with where your head's at?
Yeah, I think okay, this kind of leads back into like when T1 faced DRX in 2022. But one of the final scrims leading up to the T1 DRX series, like the finals, we assembled like two NA teams. One of them played DRX, one of them played T1. I was on the team that played against T1. And just from those scrims alone, like I hadn't played in like 2 months. And the games were still pretty competitive. And I was like, damn, you know, like I felt a lot of motivation after that. And I was like, I can kind of see NA potentially like going far in Worlds and like winning Worlds eventually. And I know like to a lot of people it kind of seems like a pipe dream. You know, when you look at like some of the Korean or like Chinese players, right? But a lot of it is just what I learned at Worlds is that some of the competition that you face here won't really elevate you to the level of Worlds. But what you can do is put yourself in a position to be able to elevate yourself in a short amount of time. And what that looks like for me is putting in more like dedicated practice towards solo queue, kind of putting more practice in or more intention in scrims a bit more, and I guess trying to, like I said, I think communication was one of the things I was lacking a lot as a player previously. I think just putting more effort into that and making sure that me and my teammates like we're on the same page and we're able to actually like talk out our issues instead of like, holding a resentment.
Mhm.
I think like those are like the most important things.
Yeah. I don't know. I always think like at least like with this game, a lot of it's like making sure you're ready to perform when it matters, right? And like that's a big process. So I like you've always had like interesting takes about like how to go about that because like there's a lot of things that goes into it. So yeah, I definitely I appreciate the fact that like you've talked about that, but also like keep on learning because I know going international, like I'm sure that's a different beast. Like being over there.
It's super fun.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like when I went, I mean, my mindset going in was like, I know I'm gonna get blasted, but
Yeah,
it's kind of fun, like you're like, damn,
it
I'm
is
so
fun.
much worse. Our first scrims against Weibo, I got absolutely smashed, and then by the end, it wasn't like it was a lot more competitive, and against a lot of the other Chinese teams, it was pretty competitive as well.
I had that meme ready for like if Weibo like won finals, like Energy called it. So you guys ranked him like top 5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly thought Jahu was like by far the hardest mid to play against at the tournament, but you know, those are just
Yeah.
scrims, so.
Yeah.
I guess maybe we can focus a little bit on this past weekend too.
Mm-hmm.
What was a good thing that you enjoyed this weekend, Palafox? Maybe about the changes or something. I know I did an interview with you, but I just to make sure that this start of this show is not all negative stuff after an exciting opening weekend. What was some of the fun that you had this weekend?
I guess it was just getting back into the studio and actually playing. Obviously scrimming for 3 weeks beforehand and not really like seeing that is a bit it's a little bit frustrating, I'm not gonna lie. Also, we didn't really have an off day. We were just doing a lot of content. So just being able to go back in the studio actually playing and like the crowd was actually super super good this weekend. It was like right when I stepped on stage, like a lot of people like shouting my name or shouting like Big Dokes or even like there's C9 chants as well. Like I think it's just great for all the players to see that, and it actually gives like a lot more motivation to like want to put that effort in, right? And I thought the turnaround times were pretty fast for the games as well. Like we at Riot before, we usually would like have a super long day there, but it feels like a lot faster, which means that like I know we have an off day today, like players do, but those kind of feel like pretty much you just play that game and then it's like free for the rest of the day instead of it feeling like a whole day ordeal.
Are they taking you guys to do content and stuff like that? Because I remember that was one of the things that Mark talked about publicly was that like, oh, we're gonna try to grab the players like day of and stuff for content.
Yeah, I mean, I think you saw it with I think Dokla got pulled for something.
The
I think
podcast, right?
Yeah. I think he got pulled for that the day of.
Yeah.
And that seemed like it went super good. It was really interesting to see. So.
Yeah, it is really cool whenever you can take 3 players from different teams and bring them all on the same podcast and have them all talk to each other. It's an idea that I'm surprised no one has thought about previous to that Riot show. Anyway, the other thing that I wanted to ask you about, Palafox, was the issue. Jatt in chat says, "Yeah, that's never been done at LOL, Travis." Exactly. A first time thing. I'm very envious of Jatt. I don't know why he only spent 15 minutes doing my old show that I've always wanted to bring back, but I would have spent an hour. I'll tell you that much.
Even EU's yoinking it now too, Travis. You're going worldwide here. TGI is going big.
Yeah.
Oh.
But anyway, so I do also want to ask, because they were talking about it a little bit on that podcast, but also other people there was like rumorings behind the scenes about it. What the fuck was going on with the like lag and stuff in game? And do you think it's related? I know obviously this is like speculation or whatever, but like I don't know, Champions Queue was just like dead when it wasn't supposed to be during the break. because like I think that the Tournament Realm was having issues then too, and so I'm like, wait, did like this patch have a bunch of issues on Tournament Realm, and then we just rolled it forward into live games or whatever? Like, what? I don't know if you could comment on any of that stuff or what was going on.
I don't know the server side specifics about it, but
Yeah.
like, I mean, the only thing I can talk about is like the actual thing that happened in our game, which was
Sure.
like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty sure all of us knew that the game was almost impossible to win. But what happened was like, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try to like bump JoJo with my Tlee ult, and maybe we can get a good fight. And you know, I threw my Tlee ult, and then people teleported like 2 flashes to the left, and I was like, oh, like everybody just lagged super hard. And yeah, that kind of happened. I think we just ended up asking for like, I don't know, I've never really gotten a chrono break on stage before, so I was like, maybe it's fast. It wasn't fast. I apologize for that. But yeah, I mean that kind of happened. So.
Well, they got to do Q&A with Double Diff, so you know, it was fine in the end. Also, we do have one of the Riot refs in chat too. The CQ TR issues didn't have anything to do with the onsite stuff this weekend. I can also double on that because it was just
he's definitely
really slow.
He's definitely above the level of ref, but yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But the client was like super slow, so that was like the issue with TR, and they didn't have anyone to work on it over the Riot break, so it was like client issues. So this was different. Yeah.
Okay, well, there's that. I think the other question I had was like, what's the deal with this new chrono break thing? Because was it Blabber? Somebody told me that they're doing like a different type of chrono break now.
I don't know. You'd have to ask Gerg7. I know who that is. I just can't remember his name.
Yeah, Adler. Yeah, Greg.
It's
Oh,
Greg, yeah.
Greg Adler.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of just what happened. They just told us, they were like, chrono break's not working. We're going to try a different chrono break. I have no idea what that means as a player, you know, but maybe he would have some more insight on that.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, good to know. Trying to think if there's anything else before we get into calls. Obviously, we've been jibber jabbering for a while, but yeah, I mean, overall, I guess, what do you think of the other teams? I saw some conversation on Reddit where people were like, you know, it just feels like it's less competitive this year. And I guess when I was contemplating that, I'm like, well, I guess that could make sense because Golden Guardians and EG, especially last year, were far more competitive, I think, than like Dig or Immortals or whatever, right? And so we have taken away some teams that were often in the top half of the league out. Now, obviously, that's not strictly how this stuff works because those players then theoretically can go to other teams and stuff like that. There's a whole conversation about when this came out versus when players were able to move to these teams and all that stuff. But I am just genuinely curious what you think of the other teams from scrims and what you saw on stage this week and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to know my like actual opinion about this, is just if you want a little power ranking, not going to include NRG in this, but C9 got better from last year. They're number 1. TL got better. I think APA will grow into like a more diverse champion pool, and I think that the changes for them were actually quite good. So I think that they should actually be a bit better of a team. Number 2, FlyQuest. I think that they have some interesting pieces around them, and they're going to play a different style of League of Legends that other teams have not really played in the past. I think that that's just generally going to be a better that's just going to be better for the league, right? Because if we go international against, like, let's say BDS again, right, and we play against Adam, I think that that'll give us a little bit more practice for that type of style, right? So I think it's actually quite good for the upper end of the league. That being said, I think just having 3 teams that are more competitive than other teams were last split is just a big net positive, because like at the end of the day, as long as you have someone that, like, a couple teams that are better to play against, then that's all that really matters, you know?
Yeah. That makes sense. I do want to address one thing, which is so it's funny because APA tweeted like, oh, it sucks to only play 2 games and then be done. And I think some people thought, What's that?
We do have a call about that.
Oh, we do? Okay. If we have a call, thank you.
Yeah.
You're doing a good job of
Look,
this. Yeah, that is what you need to be able to do with this role is stop me from blabbing about something that we have a call about. So,
yes.
good catch.
I even dressed lazier today to like kind of match Mark's vibe. You know, we're getting there. You know?
Yeah. All right, I'm turning my mic down a little bit because people are telling me I'm peaking. So, tell me if that is better, everybody. So there's like a fine line here. Anyway, Cubby, do you want to go grab our first caller?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Off. Cubby goes, oh, I need to fix that. I should not be hearing Discord noises. I apologize to anybody who thought that they are on Discord and having some sort of issue. So thank you, by the way, to a Boring Mac, Vlogfinity, Bigger Frog, Tom Jack, Shadow Spectre, The Humble Rat, Jammin' TST, and Bluejay. Thank you to all the Twitch viewers. You all are the best. Let's see if I can get the streamer mode turned back on. Here we go. Okay. Now you won't hear noises when people leave or join or whatever. Thank you to Ying for the Prime as well. Palafox here, and we've got Cubby going off to grab our first caller to come in and talk about the LCS. Hopefully some good stuff. Evan, thank you for the Prime. Appreciate it. And who are you talking to in the Twitch chat, Palafox?
I'm just talking to everybody, anybody, you know.
Oh wow, how generous of you! How generous.
Well, it's fun, you know.
Yeah. All right, our first caller is none other than Bluejay. Bluejay, where are you calling from?
Ontario, Canada. How we doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, my take is that with the LCS being on live patch, innovation with different champions and unique builds will become way more common, and the player that does it the best should be awarded the Let 'em Cook award.
The Let 'em Cook award. Okay, so like the name aside, it sounds like you're arguing for like an Innovator of the Week award.
It doesn't have to be of the week; it could be of the split.
I like this. Why don't you explain or a little bit more if you have any sort of bullet points for what this thing would look like?
I don't think there's much explanation needed. I guess fans like to see different stuff. That's one of the reasons why we're playing on live patch. And I think this just makes we highlight the people that do it best. And I think I don't know, since we're changing a bunch of stuff anyways, why not try to add little other fun things, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I like this. I don't know if I like the name Let 'em Cook award.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
It can't be like boring ass name though. Okay, like if we're gonna have fun with it, let's not make it like super official. Super like you get what I'm trying to say.
What about like the golden spatula? Related to TFT or something?
Yeah,
that's
I like that.
It is the TFT
hat
award, but like you can't.
Yeah.
There's no golden spatula. Yeah, I don't know what it would be. Twitch
isn't
chat is calling out some stuff, and none of their names are good, so they should probably stop.
I mean, I did take that one from chat, so that's unfortunate. But someone said make it a Dives award for like the dive. I think that'd be fun, so we can just come up with superlatives and do the job for them here.
At the very least, yeah, the Dives works, but I do like the idea of it being something that is like awarded on the what the Kia Awards or whatever they're doing now. I think that would be kind of cool to say like who does everybody think just did the best job of finding innovative ways, because I don't know, maybe okay, Cubby, you are the sports person. This is a great question for you. It feels like in League and in esports in general, because of the way that games are, you can have players that are doing more off the wall stuff than in traditional sports. Was that fair?
Yeah. Somewhat, yeah. I mean,
I'm not saying there aren't people that do different things in traditional sports, but you're just offered the opportunity way more often in video games.
Oh yeah, I mean, I like it. Like I think superlatives are fun. So on that train of thought, I'm all in for stuff like this. Like whether it's a divey or like something that's done, like I love superlatives. Like it's just a good time, right?
Yeah.
Like if you can come up with an award that makes people chuckle, do it. Like I think that'd be a fun broadcast premise, and I think that this is like one that like they could take this and run with it and like have others, and it'd be kind of fun.
I also think that could add to a player's brand. Like there's different ways of branding yourself, but let's say there's one player that's won 3 Let 'em Cook awards in a row. Like that's something that really helps players a lot push their personality and whatnot.
It'll just be like a Blippo versus Insanity contest. I don't know. Do you want to get in this one, Palafox? You got anything cooking up right now?
I'm curious, Palafox, what are the issues from the player perspective with this? Because I feel like all of us will be like, this is cool, and then the players will be like, fucking sucks. I don't like that at all.
I mean, realistically, it seems like a good award. You know, like I didn't expect to see a Zach mid this weekend. I didn't expect to see a Riven, even though like he plays it a lot. I still really didn't expect it. I didn't expect to see an Olaf. I don't know. I just think it's pretty interesting to see all these players like pull out new things. It might just like, what if it's like one of those things in the back of their mind that they're thinking of, and they're like, you know what, just lock me in this random shit this week. You know?
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah. So you're, I don't know, what is, if you had to thumbs up or thumbs down it, where would you be?
I mean, it'd be cool to at least give like a shout out to like the interesting picks at the end of the day, you know, like
maybe that's the best way to do it, is like as a weekly thing at first, and then if we feel like it makes sense, because like we don't know yet how much innovation is going to be actually hitting. Like we all love the idea that like the live patch is going to roll out and everybody's going to be playing all these crazy things. What if like nothing like that happens? And so it might be weird to like finalize that before we know, finalize it as like an end of split award before we know if it's going to be something that ends up happening.
I mean, it doesn't have to be like an award. Again, like a shout out is probably good enough. I mean, imagine pulling like Insanity and being like, so why did you want to pick Zach mid today? You know, like why Zach, right? I think it'd be pretty cool.
Did you think it was good that game? Were you a fan?
Of Zach mid, I was like, holy
Yeah.
shit, I can't believe there's a Zach mid versus an Orianna, but it looked really good until it didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the theory of it was decent, but
Yeah.
I was talking to Insanity about it, like when it was going over the game. He's like, I probably should have built Kanik Rooker, because like the damage would have been better. Like he wanted to sit on bombies, like then build that, and then it would have been more playable because they had so much magic damage on the team.
And we should be clear that like because I see some people confused, and I think there's been a lot of confusion about this because of the way that it was rolled out. We are not in like the live patch zone yet, right? Because like all the other leagues have been playing on this patch. We like, I think, was it this coming weekend or the weekend after that we will, so this coming weekend is the first time where we will get to see who the mad scientists are in the LCS that will, you know, Faker will be copying later on, because that's just the way the patch stuff has rolled out. So no, I like this take a lot, Bluejay. I think it is really good, and I think it's a great way to kind of embrace the idea of, hey, you know, LCS are innovators, or at least we're trying different things first or whatever. Like I think that kind of fits within the theme of it. And you know, if the people who I know over there are still working there, I will definitely suggest this to them, because I think that would be something cool that they could do. So anything you want to shout out?
Just shout out the LCS. Product was great this weekend. Yeah, the pause sucks, I know, but like the changes are good. I really enjoyed the weekend. Also, Travis, want to shout out your video with the Zoomer thing. That was hilarious. And I had two buddies of mine that don't really normally watch your content. They consume they consume League, but like normally not a lot of stuff after. And they both said that they loved it. So I just wanted to shout out that video too.
Nice, thank you. I need to figure out how to make that video work. I'm spending a lot of time this year. Among the many things that I am doing this year to try to like really push myself is also trying to figure out the best ways to make the content that is on my channel pop, including like trying different thumbnails after a video feels like it's flopped. And that video, from a viewership perspective, compared to like a surprise test or something, has flopped, even though the sentiment around it, I think it has like some of the highest like to dislike ratio we've seen. And so the people watch it are like, this is amazing, but I'm having a hard time getting people into it. So hopefully more people do that, but feel free to share it around, folks. As I keep trying different thumbnails and titles until we get it work. So it's so funny. Twitch chat in this moment is the perfect encapsulation. As Kato says, need to post it on Reddit, and then right above them, Jin Axel says it's because the subreddit deleted the post. So here's like a side little tangent, since this call was kind of short. One, the subreddit for years and years and years does not allow anything if they claim it is not directly related to League of Legends. And that's even like quizzes I have done where I'm like, hey, pro players, guess where these other pro players are from. You know, like that is how far down or how far away they will go from it. The other thing is that like the subreddit actually doesn't drive that much traffic anymore. Back in the day, it used to be a tremendous driver of traffic, but I think most people on Reddit now just like go and click on the comments or something. On the other hand, YouTube is super great at driving traffic. So I'm trying to spend a lot of time figuring out how to like make thumbnails and titles that increase click-through rate, make videos that increase retention, which is what a lot of that like Mark letter thing that I did was about, and try to make it work that way. So that's kind of the YouTube tech I'm working on these days. But yeah, the League subreddit is add it to the Cadral subreddit. Yeah, I mean somebody can post it there if they want. All right, thank you so much, Bluejay, for the call, and I appreciate the shout out, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Take care.
Have a good one.
Take care.
That Reddit mod policy is crap, by the way.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the way it's been forever. Like
I know. It's such crap,
the incident a year ago, or maybe it was like 6 months ago, where they like threw me under the bus in like a weird kind of malicious way, to make me look bad. That kind of killed my desire to, like, I've not interacted with that subreddit since. They like banned me for a week, and then did this like shady thing. And it's sad because I had interacted with that subreddit since 2011. So 12 years at that point in time. And I was one of the few. It used to be like every pro player, every team owner, all these people would do AMAs and all this content there. And over time, like the subreddit has just become more hostile, both from a community perspective and also from a moderation perspective. And so like, I was just like one of the last holdouts, and I've thrown in the towel. So it's okay. We all don't need to rely on the subreddit. It's not the be all end all. But
I mean, I hope it gets fixed. I feel like that's like a lot of the League content I consumed in the past was literally just based off of going to League subreddit, looking at content creators. Like this is 10 years or like 7 years, 8 years ago. I would just go on there, look at the content. A lot of it would be about teams, but there was also some like just funny videos, you know, and some of them weren't even really that League related. And now it's kind of just only esports, and it kind of is really stale, I think.
yeah, it's also it's only esports, and it's also like the most dry part of esports, right? Like a post-match thread or something. A lot of the fun content that I think is made, like, just never sees it there. And I feel bad for the people who are not folks that like go to a YouTube homepage or look on Twitter or something like that. But that is just, yeah. I think in chat, Yasuki said, thankfully the LO sub has become comparatively less relevant in the space over time. Every time a big story doesn't show up there, it makes the sub become less valuable as a news aggregator. And that's very true. It's very true. Like that they're burning that down on their own end. Anyway, we have another caller here. Caller, what's your name and where are you from?
Greetings. My name is bearusAurelius. I'm from New Hampshire.
From New Hampshire. And what do you want to talk about on the show?
Well, actually, you kind of alluded to this earlier, but it was the tweet that APA recently put out where he said, and I'll quote, he said, quote, "I played League for 14 plus hours a day for this entire month to only play 2 LCS games." LOL.
Yeah.
So
Why?
just to
I have a
follow up- oh, go ahead.
I'm just curious, like, isn't this the way LCS has... everybody's acting as if this is some new revelatory situation, but I think, since 2017 or 2016, this is just the way... Maybe 2015, honestly. This is the way that, like, this always works, is the beginning of January, you play a ton, and then you go out to LCS for a weekend, and you play 2 games. And like pro players have always wanted best of 3s, best of 5s, best of 7s, best of 30s. I guess it'd be 31. And they like, I don't know. I just don't think that this is like super interesting to me, but I did see a bunch of people tag me in the replies, and they were like, "Don't let Travis see this tweet. Oh boy, Travis is going to see this, and he's going to really disagree with you." And I'm like, I don't know, like he's going to play another couple games next week too. It's the way LCS works. I'm not saying that things can never change, but like, it just struck me as strange because it does feel like people are like, "See, it's now fucked." And I'm like, this is like a tweet that a player has put out every year for the last 7 years.
I mean, I kind of agree with him only on this year specifically. There's 2 less teams. We only have 14 games, so you're missing 4 games. We're not going to be... We have that 2-week break or 3-week break that we don't play.
Yeah.
So I feel like this year specifically is going to be very like disappointing in the fact that like you only have so many games to play well in. Like you really don't have like that much forgiveness for like, let's say your team drafts poorly half the games, and it's like, well, that just kind of sucks. Hope your coaches are better. Hope that you put in a lot more effort trying to convince your team that you...
So the counter there is, or no, I shouldn't say counter. I agree with you on the giant break. The giant break in the middle of the split is fucked, and I don't think people realize how much that is going to like hurt the momentum of the league. I mean, LEC had these giant breaks, and they're just really bad. And in the past, we've had the week off for a while. Riot really wanted LCS to take the week off that Riot takes off, and I think there was pushback behind the scenes that stopped that from happening. I don't think it happened last year, did it? Was there at the beginning of summer split? I don't think there was ever a week off in the middle of summer split.
No, we had the like walkout last year.
Yeah,
so.
the walkout I think just pushed it. So maybe that's what happened. But like for those that don't know, Riot takes a week off around the 4th of July. And in the past, Riot has behind the scenes tried to make it so that LCS didn't happen that week. And I think other leagues have taken it off. And LCS didn't because guess what? It's a bad fucking idea to take a week off in the middle of your split. This year, they are going to take 2 weeks off, which feels like 3 weeks, by the way, because of the way that this works. And I think that's just going to kill so much momentum in the middle of spring. So 100% agree with you there, Palafox. I can understand the idea that, it feels bad to go from 18 games to 14 games. The thing is, whenever you say like there's just not a lot of what did you say? There's not a lot of room for margin for error or something like that. I'm pretty sure 6 of the 8 teams still make it to the top, right? Like in my mind, if over 14 games you can't land yourself in the top 6 and make it into the playoffs where you get all these best of 5s, like I don't know. That to me that feels like it shouldn't be, especially in a league with some of these teams. I feel like we should. There's a lot of margin and room for error there. Like there is a lot of space there.
I'm actually kind of curious to ask you, Palafox. Like, did you like last split where it was condensed and you got 3 games a week? Because I think that's another interesting thing. Like with this take, the fact that it was 3 games a week every week last year.
It definitely felt like every week mattered a lot more. I think that like for me as a player, it's like you can have, if you had 1 good game and 1 bad game, that feels like you're just like eh. And then like if you have like 1 bad game, 2 good games, it feels like actually pretty good, Like I think that's like.
So you're a best of 3 fan, is what you're saying.
I mean, of course, but that's not.
Find me a pro player who's not a best of 3 fan, and I'll reveal to you that they're a best of 5 fan.
Yeah, that's true. I will say that the other thing, like given the format changes with some of the other regions, LCS is the last major region left that has just best of 1s only. So, yeah. I hope that changes in summer.
We're also the only region that is suffering as much as we have. Oh, I guess I shouldn't say that. There's obviously regions that have gotten merged, but of the major regions, I don't know. I imagine Riot will eventually do a best of 3 split for the LCS, if only because sentiment has shifted so much in the past year, and because I think they're just trying everything now to throw stuff at the wall to see what sticks from a viewership perspective. I will be shocked if that actually helps viewership. I mean, I saw people tweeting about, an Arrow I think was tweeting like, wow, LCS is so quick now. And I saw a lot of people be like, yeah, this is the first time in a while that like LCS ended and I was sad that there wasn't more LCS to watch. And I think that's a good thing, quite frankly. I don't think you want to be in a position where you are like, well, okay, now there's too much LCS, right? Like you want to leave people wanting more. And like, from what I can tell, the viewership this weekend did not make me think, wow, you know what we need? We need even more games.
I think we need more LEC raids, personally.
Yeah, I mean, LEC raids, less competition with them, and then perhaps less turnover between our players and our teams year over year. I'm sure we'll get a call, or maybe we'll talk about that later, the viewership stuff. But like, I don't know. Like if the league does like best of 3 for summer or best of 3 next spring or something like that, I am not going to be like, this is such a fucking terrible mistake. But I'm not going to think that it's. I'm not going to be sitting there being like, yes, finally we have best of 3 and our players will be way better internationally in best of 1s, or finally we got best of 3s. Viewership is going to quadruple. Like I just don't. I don't think that best of 3s are the thing that people should be focusing energy on right now, but it doesn't matter because other personalities, I think that it is, and people will listen to them over me, I think. So
Single round robin, best of 1, eliminate the worst team. First seed gets a bye, best of 3 to like decide like seeding or whatever, and then best of 5s on the way out. That's it. That's what I want.
I don't know. Caller, I know that you've brought in APA's take, and I have I don't know, shrugged my shoulders at it. Do you want to come back with a strong punch?
Well, just in APA's defense, he is pretty new to the league, so he might not know about the way that it was done in the past. But as far as what you're saying, I actually agree with you. I think if you look at the viewership numbers, it doesn't really make sense money-wise and in a lot of other ways to add more games. But I do think, I don't know if Palafox has a thought on this, but I do think there is something to be said for getting more experience and taking that to international events. I don't know if that actually correlates or if that's just something I'm making up, but I'm not sure what you guys think on that.
I think a lot of the experience that teams are missing out on is actually like, I think our drafting in North America is really bad. I think that a lot of players get away with having like basically not being able to get exposed, and like let's say if you have 2 players on the same team that have like very small champion pools, you're pretty much like doomed to fail. Like if a team finds out that you can just ban like 1 person out or you can ban 2 people out, that there's no games to play, and I think that that's kind of been our biggest issue. Going back to the APA point about like playing 14 hours a day to only play 2 LCS games. In the past, like I do agree, like, or not do agree, but we only play 2 games on the weekend. I think that he's been streaming a lot more, and I think that that's what a lot of players need to actually start doing to like drive viewership and drive fandom to LCS, because it's not only on Riot to push these things, it's also on the players to like put their effort forward, right? I think, JoJo streamed this weekend. Vulcan's been streaming.
Wait, did JoJo actually get a stream going? I know he tried to
did.
stream multiple times, so I didn't know if it actually finally took off.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
It was like on a black screen every time I'd go look at it. He was clearly learning how to stream while streaming. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. No, I think that like the more and more players that start doing this, the better it'll be for the league, and I think that like Riot, from what I know, is trying to incentivize players to actually start streaming a bit more. And I think that teams kind of also need to start doing the same thing. I don't think that teams in the past, like 2-3 years, have even like, they kind of say like, oh, we'll like help you out a little bit, but it's kind of like fake help, if that makes sense. It's like it's not really any actual help. So I think that teams just need to start giving like incentives to players. I think that like from the inception of franchising, teams shouldn't have been playing players so much without like incentives to stream, and I think that probably needs to join or like get added to some contracts.
Off that, I mean, it has been added to some contracts, like because obviously contracts went down, right? So I'll be the one to say it. Yeah, like incentives are more popular now in contracts, and streaming is definitely a part of that. Also, I can say that Riot, from their perspective, like someone said in chat, they hosted Yawn instead of Challengers League yesterday. I know that they are going to try and do that a little bit more often. I have mixed feelings on that, but I think it is good and important to build up the LCS player brands. So they are going to take some steps to like try and incentivize these guys to stream more too, which I mean, I think it's only good, right? I think streaming's fun. So if these guys like feel motivated to do it, that's a great way to make more money and kind of utilize like the power of their platform to do what they can. So yeah.
And obviously this is very selfish, but I appreciate, like, I want to like we focus a lot on streaming, but I think streaming is only a piece of the puzzle. Like content is such a huge part of it. It's part of the reason why I really appreciate you coming on here, Palafox, even though you hinted that you're hungover from karaoke last night. I wish more players had that sentiment, because I think part of the reason State of the League doesn't exist right now, this is a reference to an ancient show that I was making earlier, Jatt was in the chat, was because like players just stopped wanting to do that type of stuff, and they were like, and it makes sense, right? Because they like APA is playing League 14 hours a day, and I don't want to be dismissive of him in this call, even if I'm dismissive of sort of the tweet. They are playing a lot. I understand why asking them to do even more is a lot, but I think like Look, the biggest issue with the LCS, and I appreciate, I said this in my little letter to Mark thing, like they can make the league super fast, they can innovate on other types of stuff, but like if people don't care about the players, I just don't think people are going to watch the league, or at least you won't be able to grow beyond what is here now. Because I do think that the people that are watching now, a lot of them are watching just because they're like, fuck it, I'll watch LCS. Not because they're like, I want to root for my favorite player. Not like the old days, right? Or my favorite team. And so we have to build that stuff back. I think streaming is one part of it, but I also think doing content in general is part of it. And I'm trying to find ways to like get back into creating content with players in meaningful ways, because I think surprise tests and interviews are cool, but I want to do stuff that's like a little more fun. Yeah. So we will see how things go. But caller, anything you want to shout out before we go on to the next caller?
Yeah, so thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And just shout out to Palafox and Energy. Good luck on your guys' success in the this season. And also shout out to @Cub in the Discord. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for the call. Catch you.
Everyone was adding Cub in the Discord instead of Cubby, so this poor person got spammed.
Oh, really? Oh, man.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. All right, go grab another.
All right, shout out to, hey, over on YouTube. Thank you, YouTube. I know I have a passive-aggressive relationship with you. I'm trying to work on it. Tim O'Brien, thank you for the membership. 504 Caesar, thank you for the $1.99. Tahu, thank you for becoming a member. And Uwu, thank you for the $1. And then over on Twitch, thank you to Auto Policis, Dies Constantly, The Fjord, Showtime, Tank Dumpster, Evan Pogchamp, Taying, Numi, Goes Rars, It's Abe, Steve the Sleeve, and Insert Coin. Thank you all for the subs. We've got our next caller here. Caller, what's your name and where are you from?
Hi, I'm Nizzy2K11 and I'm from New Jersey.
Sorry, your name one more time. It's a little quiet.
Nizzy2K11.
Okay. I didn't catch it, but you're from New Jersey, you said?
Yeah.
New Jersey. All right. New Jersey, what would you like to talk about on the show?
Hi. So at the end of the broadcast, I actually missed it because I tuned out because I didn't think they'd have anything. But the end of the broadcast on Sunday, Jatt did a like a little podcast thing with Dokla, Jensen, and XU, right?
Yes.
Totally not your idea, Travis. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, so that I thought was like a really, really good piece of content that they did. And it's something that I feel like they need to do a lot more of to help the players like build their brand and actually like express themselves on the broadcast, because there's only so much you can do in those post-game interviews. And here they were able to talk about like the import take that Jensen had. They had a little bit of the meta talk around what's happening. They were complaining about the double support items, I think. And they got to talk about the new changes to the broadcast and how doing pick ban backstage was. And that's like, it's not something they really talk about that often. Normally, Travis would end up asking them in an interview or something, but it's not something we get to hear about, like what it's like to be backstage.
Yeah, it's a great idea for the show. I think really, really happy that he can do that with 3 pros. And so, yeah.
I mean, you sound a little jealous, Travis.
So I realize actually as I'm trying to play up this jealousy element, I'm realizing that of the 1,600 1,700 people that we have watching right now, the majority of them don't understand this joke. The first show that I ever did, the first ever piece of content I did in League of Legends was called State of the League,
Great
which
show.
is based off of a StarCraft show called State of the Game that I really liked. And the show was like me and 3 pro players, and I would just get them to like talk amongst each other for 2 hours. It was, eventually I got to Hotline League, but this was like the very first thing to the extent that like my email and my domain is still like at State of the League, because that was like my brand back then. Hence the SOTL Travis, if you've ever seen that. And when Mark was, I forget if it was before he got the job or whenever after he got it, he was like, yeah, I'm just going to do like a State of the League show after the last game on Sunday. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. You're going to just do that? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, that's a great idea. And like okay, the jealousy is because I think that type of content can honestly be the best possible fucking content that you can get. Like, it is so great when you get multiple players, especially on different teams, all talking with each other about stuff. I think that was really good. It was a little. It's not Jatt's fault. I think because everybody was just like getting into it, it was a little slow at times or whatever. Or like there were like, once those people all start jamming, and I think they will probably make that longer than 15 minutes. In the future, once they all start jamming, you get to a point where like it's really, really good. Because they can start to disagree with each other. You can start to spark conversation. My hope is that Riot and Jatt do not veer away from talking about like controversy. And a pretty good sign of that was that they were down to talk about the lag issues, right? Which is obviously something that doesn't make the league look good. And Jatt asked some follow-up questions there. So like, he's definitely not selling out, but or being a shill or anything like that. But I think those shows get really interesting whenever like imagine if that show existed when the player walkout happened, and you have
I was just gonna say
3
that.
players on the show from different teams talking about like the fucking player walkout and stuff like that. So that is, I have always found that those are the most spicy whenever you have the players able to speak honestly and openly about like either frustrations that they have with the community or Riot or a caster or stuff like that. And so we'll see if the show evolves in that direction. But even if it doesn't, I think it's like really good that it exists, because that is the type of thing, especially with the fact that they're just able to roll straight into it from the end of the show. That is like super good. So
I wish I knew it was gonna happen. I had to watch the VOD later, and people were talking about
dude,
the Jensen import take, and I'm like, where did this happen?
No,
This
Riot is so
I didn't
fucking
see?
bad about promoting their stuff. Like they did my annoyance over the weekend was that they did a like after party after the first day outside, and like they did not advertise this thing at all. They've advertised the Kia one that's coming up this week because it's like probably in a contract somewhere that they have to make 5 tweets and like 3 verbal mentions and an Instagram post about it. But like they do not, like, I'm not shocked that they didn't mention it, because like that would have been a good idea and they just don't do it. So and maybe they did mention it and you and I just we missed it or something. But yeah, I don't know. I hope they continue the series. I hope pros continue to be down to go on it. And I do think it's super good. And like, it is funny that Jatt was teasing me, because like, oh man, like I should probably, one of the content ideas I have for this year, I don't know if I'll get around to it, is like me talking about the early history of League. And I remember we did an episode of Hotline League, I think in like the first 20 or 30 episodes of Hotline League, State of the League, where Jatt came on after the community had turned on him. I don't even remember why. I'd have to go back and look, for like Scumbag Jatt, and they called him Scumbag Jatt, and everybody had turned him
played
on,
on 2
and we had to
teams
have
at
him
World
come on the
Cyber
show, and he like juggled on the show to become more relatable. Like the history of this shit is,
Jatt juggles?
yeah, Jack. Well, he used to be able to he could juggle 12 years ago. I don't know, 13 years ago. I don't know if he can now, but
I'll ask him tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, You know what they should do is during the pauses, they should just have him come up and start juggling, like for the crowd.
Oh, that's what it was. It was during WCG, and WCG, which was a more ethical version of what the Saudi Arabia thing might be, where you had Team Canada versus like Team US and all this stuff.
The one thing NA won.
Yes, and the teams were named like Chickstig Elo and stuff, like just things that you would not be able to do in 2024. And Jatt, that's what it was. Jatt, because he had citizenship in both Canada and the US, was able to play on two different teams, which people thought was super scummy, and obviously was like some sort of conflict of interest. But yeah, and so there's a bunch of drama about it. It was one of the first like League of Legends esports pitchforks, and everybody pitchforked against Jatt, and he had the moniker Scumbag Jatt for a bit because of that. And he came on the show, and that was his like sort of PR tour, was coming on State of the League. So it's just funny now that he's like hosting that show. But no, I think the content's super good. Palafox, would you go on that show?
I mean, why not?
He goes on this show.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I don't mean that.
That was a snappy response, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you said you want to do more stuff, or like you think it's important to do stuff, but you also said you like that the days are quick and you have the rest of your day to yourself. So,
Well, okay. Before, when I said that, I just kind of mean like we would have to get there early. We would be doing nothing but sitting in our rooms for an hour straight. We would get out of the rooms, and like I guess media and stuff like that would be kind of very slow. But it's a lot faster now. But we're doing the same things. It's just faster, you know. So it just feels like I'm not wasting as much time, and I have more times for other things, right?
yeah.
Oh, one cool show idea, by the way. I'm kind of pulling this from my Brazil trip that I went to with Core, Spica, Licorice, and Revan, TSM Shopify's coach, or not TSM. Sorry, Shopify. Shopify's coach. After we played with each other, we gave our like honest opinions about each other as players, like from what we got from the weekend, what we experienced throughout the split, and it was more like brutally honest, but it was really nice.
Yeah, that's fun.
And honestly, like I think we all kind of took it in stride, the type of people we were, you know. But it'd be interesting to see like if you pulled somebody up for like two players to do that for each other on Riot broadcast, maybe start some beef.
Yeah,
it would be fun.
Yeah,
I had a really wholesome one with Surdy and Fake God for like our finals. We had to do like a sponsor fulfillment, and I pretty much got like they were like the two best top laners we had. They were likely to make LCS. And that was actually kind of fun because like they were both like, "Hey man, like we play different, but like I really respect you." You know, like they got some like good moments out of it. It was really fun. I mean, Fake God's so nice that even Eminez complimented him in his thread. So you know.
Him and his mom.
Yeah.
Muzzvane in the Twitch chat stole the joke I was going to make once Cubby was done talking, which was like they should bring Ayla and Vulcan on the show together. That's
exactly.
how you spark beef. Get some stuff going. No, but I think it's good. I also like that it is live because I feel like in the past Riot probably would have been like, okay, actually Riot did do this show, right? It was, well, they did like a weird version of it, right? Which was like the Medios one.
Yeah, in like 2020.
Yeah, where it was like super fancy, and then they would record these things and then they would just like make it feel, look,
They'd edit it down.
Yeah, they'd edit it down, and like I think that stuff is really impressive from a production standpoint. I do think that the future of esports is we're just a bunch of pals hanging out talking about stuff. So yeah,
you're beating them at the game again, Travis. They're gonna steal your content twice.
Wait, which one?
The bunch of pals hanging out. Isn't that us right now? We're inviting more pals to the party.
Well, that's all of.
That was the Twitch integrations this week.
LCS, Twitch, or these League of Legends esports podcasts.
Yeah.
All right, caller. Thank you so much for calling in and for your take. Anything that you want to shout out before we say goodbye?
Yeah, shout out best of threes. Please, Mark, bring those back. It's real boring to not have anything happen in Champ Select.
Do you know that in Champ Select, champions are picked and banned?
Yeah, but if you can't ever change that, it's not really that interesting.
You can't ever change what champions are picked and banned?
Yeah, after the first game, you lost to this. Now you change your bans up.
Hmm.
Did
When
you
that
watch?
doesn't happen, picks and bans is kind of random to the viewer.
Did you watch Challengers League this weekend? We have Fearless Draft and Best of Threes.
No, I haven't
should watch it
watched
next
Oh,
Champions
weekend.
League.
so it
That's
sounds
it.
like you
Just
don't
watch it
care
next
as much
weekend.
about best of threes
Yeah,
and
just watch it next
fixing
weekend.
champion because when I offered it, caller, you chose not to. Anyway, thanks for your call. We'll see you next time. All right. We're gonna take a quick. Wait, we need to take a quick break. Don't drag in.
Oh, it's fine. It's a
Oh
special.
my gosh,
guest.
it's a random.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, she can chill for a second while
exactly.
I talk
Yeah.
about Alienware, our sponsor for this episode. Thank you so much to Alienware for sponsoring tonight's episode. You got to go check out Alienware. They've got a bunch of awesome products, including the Alienware Aurora R16. Say that 10 times fast. The wonderful desktop that they sent me last year. You can also take a look at the new M16R2. If you've seen my outros this week, you'll know that I've been talking a lot about this product. A fantastic machine, which is all about keeping a low profile while also kicking things up for performance gaming, streaming, and more. It's got up to a NVIDIA RTX 4070 laptop GPU. It's cooled by Alienware Cryotech thermal technology. And this thing, by the way, it just got announced a couple weeks ago during the sort of tech wave of stuff that comes out at the beginning of the year. And it's now available for purchase. You can actually get it right now. For me, if I order it, it says it arrives February 7th, so you get it pretty quick. Sometimes these things can take a little longer depending on who you're ordering it from, but they have these things ready to go. So I think it's just cool to see Alienware continuing to innovate. This thing, by the way, you can get a 16-inch QHD plus 2560 by 1600, 240 hertz display with G-Sync. And that's super cool, by the way. The fact that you can choose, because in the past, I don't know how much you guys keep an eye on sort of monitor stuff and display technology, but in the past there was like a pretty big trade-off where you could maybe choose a higher resolution display or one that has a higher refresh rate. It's awesome to see a machine that has both in it. So I don't know. I think the M16R2 looks fantastic. Hoping that I can grab one from Alienware myself, and encourage you to go check it out over at alienware.com/Travis. There's a link in the description if you're watching over on YouTube or on the podcast description. So thank you to Alienware for sponsoring the show. All right. In the call, we have somebody who tells me she's never available on Mondays, and yet here she is.
I'm an hour late.
Emily, where are you calling from?
I am calling from Culver City, California.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
Well, I typed my thing in case I didn't make it, because I do have something every Monday night, Travis. Not just avoiding you on purpose.
Sure.
But I always respect Christian's opinions on like mid lane matchups and stuff, and I bug him about it sometimes when I can. So I figured I'd come in with a quirky Azir take because that excites everyone, including mid laners. But actually, in all seriousness, I did want to ask. Azir kind of tends to warp the mid lane meta whenever he's either perceived as like ridiculously strong or just generally blind pickable in a draft. So with some of the answers that we already see, what is it going to take to get you guys to drop the Azir? Or is it doomed? Like, is he that strong? Or is he just like super comfortable for most people to play? And you can kind of blind pick him. I mean, my opinion is also that it's getting punished a little bit more, but what's it going to take for teams to just drop the Azir?
I think that Azir is like very good in the beginning of splits because he's not punished as hard because it takes team synergy to punish him and good drafts. I think that Azir will always be meta, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You see in pro play of League of Legends, people have gotten so good at engaging that you need dashes. It's not possible to survive without them. Like, let's say if you look at T1 Gen G's game, it's like owner goes in first, he EQs out, like Flash R's EQs out, right? Traps people, they have to decide, like if it's an Orianna in a Jarvanel, right? It's like, okay, I have to flash now, right? And then they come back in with like a Nico coming in, and the Nico flashes on the Orianna, it's like, okay, now you're dead, right? But let's say you're Azir. Well, now you've done some damage in the fight, and you have a dash to get away, so you don't have to blow your flash. And yeah, it's just like the more team coordination there is in the game, the more you can't really play non-dash champs unless they're like really strong. Um, and Azir just happens to be in a place where like he's okay and he has a dash. So.
An expected answer, but not one I wanted to hear. I think.
I mean, I personally think that Azir is like really counterable. I think he has like a 1 or 2 wins against Akali right now, and he has like 6 or 7 losses. Like it's like not, like there's picks to punish the champion. People just don't actually pick them.
Yeah. Sorry, Cubby, were you gonna say something?
No, I was also gonna say that like I think something that's really important in the Corki Azir matchup too that I don't see enough here, and that I see more in LCK is like mid's just getting the W or the E out of one or the other because it's so expensive mana wise. Like I know that LCK like when they played around Azir a lot, and not this past season, but like the season before, like when Zeka was going, it was like watching like a lot of the LPL and LCK playoff games, and I just noticed that like junglers would just go get the Azir to E because like you just burn mana. And I don't know if that changed in the new season with Presence of Mind. It did? Okay.
Yeah, the Doran's ring is a little bit too strong right now. You
Okay.
actually, there's a couple champions right now that don't actually need to build a mana item that used to.
Yeah.
And you have literally no issues with mana right now.
Yeah.
You only have issues with champions that like really spam abilities, but Azir spamming a 40 mana cost W doesn't really do anything. And Corki just like queuing a wave, R'ing it, clearing it, and just leaving is like he already builds tier, like he needs to build that item anyways, right? So unfortunately, Riot kind of unintentionally made mana items a little bit less important. So
Yeah, 'cause the Azir build's like release Azir now, where it was like you just rush Nashers and which I always thought like Azir wants Nashers. I was always like that's the item for him. But yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Lichbane is actually something I've really. I wouldn't say enjoyed seeing on Azir is the right word, but for side laning purposes, I think it's insanely strong.
Yeah.
The other part of my question, just because like I see you, and again, like a lot of our conversations we've had previously about mid picks have just been around like more specifically what LPL and LCK are playing, what they could play that they're not, and like what a good counter matchup would be in mid. Why do you think and again, I think I already know this answer. You're my pro guinea pig for saying it because I trust you and I respect your opinion. Why do you think the meta generally has not differed a significant amount from what we saw at the World Championship in terms of key champion picks, even with how many things have changed with the map and itemization? And then going into this weekend, you guys as NRG, like you specifically, but also generally this group of players, is a group that I'm looking at as a team that could really, really innovate and throw some funky stuff in draft. How willing do you think people actually are going to be? Because this is our first like live patch weekend.
I mean, from what we've seen, like, I think that people are pretty willing. I think Insanity, if you want to have like Insanity will pick random shit all the time. I think that he is actually the person that is more down to play a lot of the weird stuff. I think that like, I mean, the patch drops on Wednesday. That's the first day we actually get to play it. Other than like scrims, so it'll kind of be interesting to see. It's like how people actually innovate. I think that people will be like really late on the meta, and you might see some like super big draft gaps, which will be a bit interesting. But a lot of the things that, like, you see me playing like Talia as an example. I think that a lot of mid laners are like slow to pick up this champion, and even in scrims, let's say they do pick it up, they might have like 1 or 2 bad games. They don't understand why. It's because a lot of the time, the mid counter picks that you need to play warp how your team picks actually go, and you need to understand. Like, you pretty much, like, what I tell my teammates is like, I want this champion. I don't want to play if we don't have this champ. And it will just warp your team identity a lot more, and it'll force your teammates to actually play a lot more champs. The thing is like if your teammates aren't willing to do that, then now you're just kind of stuck in the still meta where like there's no reason to like play these counter picks if you're not willing to like all in and like play the best things for them, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I am curious, Palafox, do you think that there will be salty pros? Like, are you going to see people tweeting when they just get fucking crushed in lane by something that somebody figured out faster than them, and they're like, wow, we have to play this dog shit patch or something like that, you know?
Of course. I mean, like even the double support item, like okay, I had this talk with my AD carry, which was like you literally get more gold. Like
Yes.
you
It's gross.
It's so
not
disgusting.
It's
but
gross.
people still don't build it because like the talk I had with him was pretty much just like if you get more gold but you want to farm later because you think you're going to be losing out on late game item spikes, why don't you just buy the item and then sell it after you've gotten the gold? And like the amount of gold that you go up is like, I don't know. What I was seeing from our scrims were like we were getting like towers and objectives, and like the enemy AD carry was just getting an absurdly like he ended up going up gold like throughout the whole play. It was really weird, right?
Yeah.
And I think that people will be salty, but there's also the fact that like pros are usually like really stubborn, so a lot of pros probably won't adapt. So we'll see.
Yeah. I'm just fascinated by it, and I wonder if there's going to be a point in time where like that. I'm just wondering what kind of drama will come out of it. You know what I mean? Like
Hey, I want the drama, man. Let's see it.
Well,
let's toss some hands.
That makes it funny.
Yeah, I
kind
know,
of.
but I think you guys are thinking of the like obvious drama of like a person who gets crushed and is like, oh yeah, they're playing that OP shit or something like that. But like, what happens when a co-streamer or a content creator is like, you know, picks that up and then it becomes this whole mantra? Like I'm not saying this is going to happen. It's just like I have seen how these things kind of spiral and turn into kind of this weird toxic scenario. And I am wondering if something like that will happen. I hope not, though, because I do love the idea of live patch, and so it would be a bummer if something that everyone's so excited about now ends up becoming like a bitter thing later. I mean, Champions Queue is kind of the perfect example of that, right? Where like it started off and everybody's like, "We fucking did it! We have Champions Queue," and then like by the end of a split, it's like North American pros are the laziest fucking pieces of shit, and Riot's like, "Yeah, we're shutting Champions Queue down." Like, you know, maybe I have trauma. That's what it is. Like he sees something exciting, and I'm like, "What's the crazy drama that's gonna spawn
Dude,
out of
Riot
this?"
ruined Champions Queue. I don't know why. People don't know what they did. It's fine.
What did they do?
There was mandatory voice comms at first, and then they took those out because pro players would say that they would play more if they didn't have that. And then like I really liked the voice comms, and then when people just weren't joining, I mean I pretty much had a chat with like the people who ran it. I was like, nothing's getting better. I can tell you without looking at stats that like this is actually making it a lot worse. And then they're like, oh, we actually just need to run the stats on it a little bit more. And then they had one split of that. The next split they tried to go back to it, and then it was just already ruined by that point. Like nobody wanted to play. So.
It's like having it on the weekends and then going to the weekdays and then going back to the weekends is maybe an apt analogy.
Nice.
All right. Emily, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout
No,
out?
thanks for letting me on. Shout out to, I would say I said this on Making the Rounds with Kelsey earlier today, because we brought that show back. So actually, shout out to that, first of all. Me and Kelsey streaming after LEC finishes every Monday, doing Making the Rounds. It's been a fun time. But then also shout out to not just our production team, but like specifically the engineers and like actual staff behind making sure that the pre-recorded draft and the turnaround time was so quick. Cause like, I don't think people realize how much effort and organization has to go in to have that be smooth. And it kind of had to be smooth because of the promises that we made. So like there's an entire team of people behind that. And especially with the layoffs that came through today. I feel like the people who are there making this product so good, you should really, really shout them out and really appreciate them.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I've just heard a lot of the folks who did get hit, and it is it's a sad time.
Yeah,
for sure. Thank you, Emily, for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for letting me come on.
I'll also say too, like on that last summary point, like if you have, it's really hard to grasp how many people go into working on LCS as a product unless you've been to the studio. Like it is amazing, like how many extra like faces and people are around.
Well, and even if you go to the studio, it's
goes
more like
into
you
it.
have to be in the back, right? Because like
Yeah.
if you go just watch, you'll see some people
Yeah.
out front, but like the majority of the folks are actually in the back. Like
It's crazy
Yeah.
how many people like get the show going. Yeah.
so. All right. Well, thank you to Emily. Cubby, you want to go grab the next caller?
Yeah. Huh.
Thank you to Fishy, Cowiz, Robbie Chan, America Vespucci, Rippy575, Aviokia 10, Bowen Chung, thank you for the 500 bits, and Gingmeyer, thank you for the tier 2. Thank you, folks. And Adam over on YouTube, thank you for the membership. That stuff is more valuable than you can imagine this year. It's not been a great beginning of the year, I'll say that much, in terms of news for TGI and stuff. So we'll talk more about that in a future episode. But rawnblade is here. Rawnblade, where are you calling from?
From Sydney, Australia.
Sydney, Australia. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So I have a question for Palafox, which I think you talked a little bit about at the start of the show, but hopefully there's more to say. Which is essentially, you were obviously griefed by team owners for a long time, and so you never got to be on a good team that went to international competition. But obviously last year you got that opportunity, and I'm interested to hear how you feel having done that, played against all the best mids in the world, in scrims and on stage. Like coming back to NA now, are you feeling like there's this massive gap between you and the people around you and those international laners, or were you kind of surprised that it's actually you're closer to that top tier than maybe you realized when you were just playing against other people in NA?
I think that people don't realize how close the gap actually is. Or sorry, let me rephrase. How close the gap can be. Because like obviously League is a 5v5 team game, and a lot of what you see LCK and LPL actually do better than our region is like the communication, the timing, and like the understanding of like it's like really basic fundamentals when you think about it. I think a lot of teams just don't have a lot of like infrastructure to help them out, and a lot of it is on the players to realize it themselves. And unfortunately, I don't think you can really do that without going to an international event. It's really hard to be able to like realize something that isn't actually, or how do I put this? It's hard to learn something that you're not actually experiencing. Like if you can only see it from other regions, you don't understand like what goes into a play. And I think that like a lot of what I got back from like Worlds and stuff like that was just the fact that I just need to put in more individual effort, and I need to not be lazy about my practice. I mean, I always say like on other interviews, like my arm hurts. What that really means is like when I play lazy, I click like 1 or like 5 times a second. When I'm playing like really focused, I'll click like 10 times a second, 10 to 11, and my movement's generally better. And I've noticed that I actually like think better as well in the game. And I only did that in Korea because I was like, might as well go all out, and like who cares about if it hurts or like if I have pain, it doesn't really matter. But I think it's about being able to do that consistently up until Worlds and actually having like a good system for that myself. So that's kind of like my biggest takeaway.
Maybe a little follow-up, if I'm allowed, would be everyone obviously is super hyped on JoJo as kind of this generational talent in NA. And I'm interested to think like you've now scrimmed and played against some of the people that are like considered that level in other regions. Like, do you think Jojo specifically, and I guess yourself as well, like do you think that you there is space for these mid laners to be on that same level and to be that same thing for NA?
Yeah, I mean, of course. I think that like when I was mentioning to Emily that you need to be able to warp your team's picks and like kind of warp your team identity, I think that I don't know how much Jojo actually does that for his team or how much his coaches do that for him. But my coaches help me out with it a bit, and I also do it a lot like naturally. Um, so it's just like the idea of I don't want to pick Nico unless we have like a hyper carry somewhere. If you end up with like Nico and like Senna TK and like a Rel jungle, your super low damage profile, right? This happens like a lot in international events. It happens a lot in scrims. And I think what the Asian teams actually have down is like they have a formula for draft that makes sense. They don't actually just like completely grief their players. And I think that at least what I want to see out of Jojo that'll make him a lot better of a player is I think that he needs to kind of, I mean, he's starting to do it, which is good, but open up his champion pool and actually like manipulate the draft in a way that like his teammates also need to open up their champion pools. It's not just Jojo. If they like if he tells them that like he needs this from top or he needs like his bot lane to play this and he's playing these champions, I think it'll make him look a lot better than he is even right now.
I actually like kind of appreciate like what you're saying too, and like something that I've at least agree with, like one of the many like takes that like we have from LS is like something that I actually always stuck with me with him is like he always say that like in Korea the pros are able to like off roll better. I think like a lot of like what you've been saying, Palafox, is kind of like the coordination that these teams have, like they have a better understanding like what is needed for like every role. And I know like when I was talking with a lot of the Challengers players this past year, like they had a pretty much a 4.5, 5 month break between like their last game and then spring. I was telling a lot of them, I was like, dude, just play like a different role for a month. Like just see what happens. Because like at least like in general like learning curves with stuff, you're gonna learn so much more playing a different role than like continuously grinding your own role. And you might be able to bring that back into tryouts, into a combine where like you will at least be able to round out your skill set, right? Because like in terms of like learning curves, like you'll want to specialize and be ready like for those things to perform at your highest level. But you can round yourself out, and that will maybe help you view what you do differently too, like within the game, right? And I think that's something that like is definitely I also agree with you is missing, and something that I've actually credited you guys for a lot, like under Think Card, is that I actually feel like you guys have had better draft reads, like majority of the time. Like even when it's like Luger Poom, you guys were like on the Senna Seraphine tech early, like a lot of the Senna tech. Like I feel like you guys like have had better rounded out drafts, and even like this week in LCS, like I've been seeing Rumble paired with Milio Lucian. Like that shit makes no sense to me. Like that is not what the Milio Lucian like really wants, you know. So like for me, like I think that this like is an issue like that I see, and like sometimes like there are just some drafts like you don't have like what people need like across the map, and yeah, that's definitely something that like I feel like is more consistent elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean personally, I mean I can talk a little bit about the dig draft, but like
Yeah.
we went over a draft scenario where like we almost had like flipped matchups of like Rumble Azir into Corki, and I told my coaches I was like, no, we will lose the game. Like there's no reason to start. Like you obviously can win every game, right? But like I don't want to go into the game just inherently at a disadvantage when Corki builds a Hex Drinker. Like it's just not it's not like a real thing, and a lot of coaches just have bad reads and a lot of players just like don't actually understand how it affects them, you know.
That's a great example too, because like you guys had Doko play Jason in the Rumble that game, and because you have the Son of Kench, you're actually able to play through that lane. Which if you pressure Rumble, like Jace hits a break point where he just nukes Rumble on the side lane like for the rest of that game, right?
Yeah.
And you also had a really sick roam at level 6 to get XU because like it was a control ward there, and you dropped a wave to like make sure that like Doko was even further set up. Like I know you picked up the kill from that, but like that's like a good example of like that was a team-wide thing where like, hey, we can play this if we have the Son of Kench bot, right? Like you're able to play the map as a whole. So yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much to our caller for their take. Is there anything that you'd like to say here at the end?
Yeah, I just want to shout out Palafox. When I came over to the States and went to Worlds, what's that, year and a half ago now, I met Palafox at the live Hotline League event, and he was super nice and friendly, and it was super lovely. So, yeah, I've kind of been a bit of a fan since then. So it was obviously super cool to see you and NRG go on a bit of a tear this year. So, and yeah, particularly sweet to see you destroy G2. So, yeah, I really hope that you continue to do well this year. So, yeah, saw you on today and was like, gotta make it in. So yeah, have a good one.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, cheers.
Cheers.
All right. We have 3 more
Sweet.
callers to go tonight. Thank you
Yeah, that one's
to
cool.
Yeah.
Penny Snatcher for the Prime, Cliff.Sun for the Tier 1. Hi, Cliff. And I think I shouted out Gingmeyer. So thank you all. Cubby, I think we're ready for the next caller whenever you are ready to head out. But yeah, I was saying earlier, thank you to everybody who does sub. That I think more and more the content that you're going to be watching on my channel will have to be funded by I don't know, maybe a Patreon or just me perhaps streaming more to try to do some more sub stuff, because it's just the way the industry is going. And I know a lot of other people are hurting too, so I don't want anybody who's in like a tough financial position or who recently got laid off or anything like that to be supporting. But even your Prime subs, included it nominally free in some way. And one person once got frustrated with me for suggesting that they were free, but free to many. I think that type of stuff is very helpful and does go to support the content. So thank you to everybody who does decide to sub. All right, we got Wokka here. Wokka, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Long Beach, California.
Long Beach, California. And what do you want to talk about on the show?
So I have a question for Palafox. With the focus on player content, and with how that affects either your schedule or other stuff with that, how is your opinion on this content change? And if we can get to it, how are the players feeling after the conversation you guys had with Marks about the player? I think what was
Like the
it
player
called?
summit?
Yeah, the player summit.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on the content change?
With how the LCS is like more forward with like putting in segments and doing more content pieces with players. And of course, earlier in the stream, you guys talked about hosting Eon and other stuff. How are you feeling with it?
Oh, okay. I actually generally like all these changes. I think that honestly we did a little bit of stuff where we like grab players for like broadcast segments, but these are obviously a little bit more like on the fly, and you get to see like more of people's personality. So I think that's good. I think what I would like to see pushed a little bit more. I know you guys said like you didn't really care about the subreddit, but personally it holds like a special place for me, because that's actually kind of how I got so into League. Was like I looked at subreddit a lot, I looked at a lot of content creators.
Palafox, let's be clear here. My career began on the subreddit whenever a pro player posted that they had become homeless. So I don't want to suggest that it is not important to me too. It's more just I've given up on trying to invest time into it. But you can continue. Sorry.
Anyone know that guy?
So, well, I just think that like, isn't that so beautiful to think like that's where you started from, but now it's like, I feel like the subreddit's like a desolate place of only like esports things only, and it doesn't really feel that good. And I hope that a lot more traffic goes through there somehow. Maybe Mark can talk to them out of their ways.
The mods are not. The mods don't really listen to anybody, and I don't even say that in like an aggressive way. It's just like they have decided what that subreddit is going to be, and I think it would also look very bad for Mark and Riot. They don't want to get like, as much as people want to claim that the Riot mods have been paid by, or sorry, the Reddit mods have been paid by Riot. Like, not accurate from my understanding in any way, shape, or form. And I think there's a lot of stuff on there that would not be there if Riot was paying them. But I don't think that Riot wants to get caught up in like trying to convince the moderators of the subreddit to change the way they work, you know?
Yeah, I just feel like it's just such a big traffic of, especially like North American fans, you know?
I mean, it
I think,
doesn't
like, every
drive
year-
much traffic, if that makes you like. As somebody whose content goes there, it doesn't really like you can get pretty high up there, and unless like the only things that it'll drive a ton of traffic on is like stuff that was going to succeed anyway. And let's put it this way: like oftentimes the videos that I have that are pretty high up there will get like 5% of their viewership from the subreddit. So it's not as impactful as you think. I agree that it is like a really great location for community and culture and conversation. Like whenever you are looking at a post-match thread, it's like super fun to see everybody talking in it. But it is like I don't think it's... Also, you said like you want there to be less esports stuff. It sounds like there. Right?
Yeah, I don't think that like pushing a bunch of esports driven content all the time is like the best way to gain a casual fan or turn a casual fan into like a esports watcher, right? I think it's like how I got introduced to esports and like even loving League wasn't through esports. It was through like watching, I don't know what their names are, but they used to just make like old parodies of songs and turn them into League related videos, right?
Civ HD was one.
Yeah, like it
yeah.
really wasn't like esports that drove me into esports. It was really the casual content creator that did this. I think that like I guess like I feel like a lot of pieces play into each other, and sometimes like we just focus on the end result a lot, and I don't really think that that's too good.
Chat said Instalock. That was it.
Oh
And
yeah,
also
yeah.
Spazzy, made good content back then.
Yeah, there were a lot of people making really great content back then. Way back
Yeah.
in the day.
You were still around.
Yes, I was still around. Yes.
Well, around today. You know.
I mean, Palafox, I will say that I think that okay, if your sentiment is because it sounds like you're like, oh, I like it when you see really cool League of Legends content that gets people into the game, and then those people are more likely to watch the esport. Is that kind of your philosophy?
Yeah.
I mean, one, I think a lot of that content still exists. It's just it's like on
Yeah, like where
YouTube.
do I have to go to find it?
YouTube.
It's not. Yeah, yeah. So let's say like, oh, sorry.
Oh no, it's like Necrit or like Nicky Boy. I mean, Scooch left, but there's some, yeah, there's a lot of creators like that. Even like Dumbs, it's great.
Yeah, I'm just sure that like, at least for me, a lot of me seeing it in the first place was through Reddit. Even if it drives like a little bit of it, it's like I saw it through Reddit. I told my friends about it. Now that like that small Reddit engagement was like suddenly like 5 or 6 more of my like real life friends watching this video.
Sure. I just think
go off of
that Reddit. The other thing is that, I mean, not to go too far down the road, I think Reddit is trying to IPO soon and like become listed on the stock market. And when that happens, I think the site is also going to get a lot worse because it'll become a publicly traded company. Like my suggestion, Palafox, is we should not be betting all of our chips on the subreddit, because I feel the same way you did back in the day. Like it was super meaningful to me, and it still is in a way, but like I think we need to find other places like Discord, YouTube itself, places like that
100%.
to try to cultivate the same kind of experience.
Yeah, I guess I've read like what was his name? He used to be like CLG's old like GM or something.
Yeah, I know.
It just
Who
seems
is
like
that, maybe.
I was just hearing a lot of things from him, and also just looking at like, let's say, Ludwig's like growth. It's just playing off a bunch of different platforms to actually like make your growth like multiply a lot more, you know?
No, okay. So here,
I'm not saying Reddit's the end all be all. I'm just trying to say it's like a piece, you know?
because you've hit on something really good, which is I think what Mark's priority should be. One of his biggest priorities should be is like getting the LCS platforms like to a good place again. It's a tough day to be critical of things that Riot employees have been working on, so I'll try to be like, have a light touch to it. But I think that, for instance, the YouTube strategy in the past is okay. I talked about this a little bit earlier in the show, right? But like, what happens now whenever a YouTube video gets released, and I'm trying to do this more, especially with like my big tentpole releases, is like YouTubers will track the click-through rate and look at all the real-time analytics and change dynamically like the thumbnail, the title, all this stuff to get to a really good place. Like, that doesn't happen on the YouTube channel. And like, I don't feel that bad talking about this because like I talked to Riot about this last year. They'll just name stuff like, what is it? They always call it something like week 1 promo. Yeah, back on weekends, LCS week 1 promo. Like, that is not a particularly captivating title, or like what a player of the week should never do. Like, these are the types of things where let's set aside the content for a second. Let's just pretend everybody at Riot on these teams fucking kicks ass on it, and again, tough day to say otherwise, right? But like, you need to make sure that you are doing a lot of stuff to make sure that spending a lot of time and effort to make sure that people are actually going in and consuming this content. And so when you talk about like the Ludwig stuff, that is like the perfect example of like, Ludwig is not gaming Reddit. Like, obviously like live stream fails and all that stuff does a lot for him. But like, the real places he finds success on, I think, is like YouTube and stuff like that, right? Where he has a clips channel that pops up. Well, I don't know if he does, but a lot of those people have clips channels that pop off and do a lot to feed into them, and like the thumbnails are all really well done, and like that's the type of stuff that the LCS needs. Yeah, Cagel's doing this really well, as Boba Bun in Twitch chat says.
So also, like, go back to more of the initial point, like with Palafox. Like, one of my favorite pieces actually of you, Palafox, was with CLG when they did like your like little nook or like the loft, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's like really fun, Like, I learned something new about you and kind of like how you like to be outside of the game, and like stuff like that. Not being able to make it onto that Reddit, like that might be a new way for people to discover that, and like let it live there. Like, if people like it, they'll upvote it, and it's fine. I don't get like why they chop out the stuff that like helps us connect with you, like, as people, And I think that's why part of the reason why people feel disconnected, like this new kind of crop of pros that we've had emerge throughout the past 5, 6, 7 years. So
yeah. I agree with your overall sentiment there, Palafox. Also, I forget, Wokka, remind me, what was your take again?
Oh, no, I was just like, if we could get to it, like for the player summit, I just want to know the player sentiment around
right.
that.
Man, we are all over the place.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
So the player summit, it was honestly a bit interesting. Mark was only a very short portion of it, but I guess we kind of learned like what he was trying to push, and he's kind of trying to work with players to like see if we like the live patch thing, making sure that everybody's like having less to complain about. Because I think that the more complaining there is, League is a little bit of an echo chamber, and I think he's trying to do things to like, I think assuage, that might be the right word, make everybody feel good about it, and that's kind of all I can say to that. I think he's doing a really good job.
That's good.
That's good.
Thank you so much, Wokka, for the call, and we will catch you next time. Is there anything you want to shout out really quick, though?
Yeah, I want to shout out VCT. It's gonna happen soon. I'm super excited for that. And also, Sentinels. I love you, Zelsis. See you later.
See you. All right.
All right. We have 2 callers left. There was just a mic that like may not work, so we'll see. But I'm gonna go grab the next one.
All right. Good luck.
Yeah.
So thank you to Fertile Stallion, by the way, who dropped 5 gifted subs. Really appreciate the support. And a very interesting name. Also, we are at 666 sub points, so we might want to move away from that because something bad could happen. Palafox, you ever want to play Magic? Can I teach you how to play Magic?
Dude, I mean, I would be down. I think Croissant plays, right?
Palafox, Croissant plays because I taught him how to play at my New Year's Eve party last year.
Okay. Well, if you invited me to the New Year's Eve party, then maybe I would have learned too. So.
No, you would not have come. He plays in my.
What?
He plays
wouldn't have
with my
came?
Magic group whenever he can get away from NRG.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be down to play. My brother played for a little bit, so.
Sick.
Yeah.
Get Croissant to teach you. Actually, I mean, I'd be down to teach you, but he's like right there, so you should teach him. Junghoon is here. Junghoon, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Orange County, California.
Orange County, California. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I wanted to talk about, not to be too much of a downer, but the recent layoffs within the gaming industry, not just at Riot, and streaming as a whole seem to be ramping up. There's a number of companies besides Riot, like Discord, at the Game Developer Conference. I've only cursorily kept up with this. They took a poll, and there were some not so great numbers. It said like nearly half, or 49% of survey respondents said that AI might be a threat. There was just a big poll going on there. Sorry, off topic. Anyway, these companies seem to be leaning more and more heavily into the contracting or freelancing side of hiring employees, and I have a feeling that this will inevitably harm the industry and result in a PR crisis, just like what we saw with Uber and Lyft a couple of years back.
So do you want to try to focus this a little bit more on like its impact on esports at the very least? Because we tend to focus more on LCS on the show.
For sure.
And then obviously esports is broader than that, and so going incredibly broad with like gaming and tech as a whole is a little rough. But yeah, I mean, I think if maybe we can turn this into kind of like an esports winter chat, and also kind of a conversation about the LCS weathering this.
Yeah. I could be mistaken. I do think I recall at one point on the show, maybe it was Cubby or maybe it was a different caster talking about how they are contractors. I don't know if everybody who is a caster is freelance per se, but I know that with a lot of the job uncertainty kind of dipping into that esports winter doom and gloom kind of thing, it seems like there's a lot less job stability within esports going into the esports winter, and whether or not a lot of employees will have to look elsewhere if maybe there's other games or esports coming up.
Well, let's
around League.
Well, I don't know how comfortable you are, Cubby, talking about sort of how you're weathering the storm, especially as somebody who's like very passionate about coming into esports and wanting to, find a full-time position. I know obviously LCS, no surprise to many people, is like a big aspiration for you. How has all this been for you in the last, 12 months?
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly been like kind of interesting. I mean, we are freelance, right? So like, I'm a contractor. And the way for our show, like for challengers, I mean, we went from having 2 broadcasts with 3 people on of the day to 1 broadcast with 2 people on of the day, and like our team got cut. Like that means with 1 broadcast instead of 2 and less people, it's just less people a day for all of us. I'm not, in terms of like the AI thing, I won't go into that because like I'm not worried about that for my job or stuff like that. I'm sure it will have an impact. I'm just not an expert, but yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like, frankly, if this wasn't on weekends, I probably would have said no. And the only reason that I was able to say yes is that this is on weekends, and I can try to at least do some of my own content, but also like I haven't really made this super public because obviously like I still want to go as hard as I can in this, but yeah, like I am looking for work and other opportunities at the moment. And everyone on my team at Challengers League is the same way. So yeah, it's I know that's like our scenario. I know that for LCS, like with the cuts, the analysts, like Jatt, Raz, Emily, and that desk, like that was cut pretty significantly. And I think that they're still going to have a big role in the show and they're going to manage that. But also it's kind of tough, like for them to at least like have an expanded role given the changes. And like, I think no one's going to say like, hey, the shorter times between games is bad, right? Because like it seemed like it was really well received, but also like their role changes because that was made. And like there's no more desk content, right? It becomes something very different. So it's, yeah, like, I mean, I think that a lot of people have felt it. It's kind of tough to like break into the space too, because like, at least for me, like I have a marketing major and I can at least, you know, like some of the pitches I made and like some of the stuff I've done, I can be like, hey, I've grown my own brand and marketed, but also I don't have anything to like, where I've been freelance for the last few years, like a company, like they're just looking at my work. It's not like I can give them a full portfolio of stuff I did at a different company. And like, that is probably the first thing that I'll get asked in interviews. Like, hey, like what was this job? And like, what were you doing? Right. And this job, it leads into literally nothing else. Like I hit GM playing this game. I've coached people playing this game, like throughout collegiate. I can't apply those skills to like anything else but just what I can do in life, you know? I think there are like a lot of life skills like I've brushed up on them there and throughout doing this, but that's goes for anything, going through anyone going through anything in life, right? And it's like not something that's like very specialty, which you kind of need in the job market. So it's tough. It's definitely like a very different landscape since 2 years. Like I've been able to do this full time for 2 years. And this is the first year where like I'll probably need more work. So yeah, it's definitely very different. But yeah.
I will say so it's funny, I promise this is on topic, but I have this magic group, right? The whole magic group is people from Riot and the teams and content creators and just like a whole slew of people from the esports space. And what's been really depressing is that over the past like year that I've been running this, this magic group has just become progressively more underemployed. You know, it's like every couple of weeks, a new person that comes out is suddenly looking for work, or they had their hours cut, or they lost one of their contract gigs, or sponsors dropped out from something they were doing. And it's like really tough out there right now. And I think, look, part of this is esports is resetting to probably where it should have been, which is not to say these people should be losing their jobs or anything like that, but like there's I think an understanding that like, okay, this is not going to become bigger than the MLB in 10 years. That's just not the speed at which the industry is going to grow. And so we are seeing kind of the ramifications of that, and there's layoffs on the esports side. I mean, I'll tell you all that I've heard repeatedly about there being budget cuts on the LCS. Like everyone I talk to over there is understanding that like there's money pulling out of that, and I think that's because there's money pulling out of esports stuff across the board, right? I saw some people speculating that, Riot had to buy out the EG and Golden Guardian spots, but also in the long run, that is money that Riot doesn't have to pay to those teams, right? Previously, Riot was paying somewhere in the vicinity of $2 to $2.5 million a year to each of the LCS teams, and so that's $5 million a year that they're gonna save. So and one of my big concerns is, why hasn't LCS Spring Finals been announced yet? I've definitely heard some rumors around that. I don't know if either of you have, or if you feel comfortable talking about it, but like
It's made it to me.
Yeah. I don't anticipate that there will be like a road show for the Spring Finals this year. So yeah, things are not great, I would say. And it's weird to talk about this after like the exciting opening weekend of the LCS that we had, and like I think both things can exist, right? Where you have LCS, hooray! It's awesome. It's a great product. We can all tune in. We can love the changes that they're making. We can get excited about all this stuff, and then we can also acknowledge that like it fucking sucks out there. A lot of us are having a hard time, and players are getting salaries cut, and fans are getting, cool things that are not going to be showing up again this year. I don't know. It's just it is a really rough time. So, yeah. Palafox, I know that you're in a weird position as a player on all this stuff, but I don't know if you want to speak to any of it.
No, I don't have any. I don't have any intelligent take here. It's just Hope Riot does their best. I don't have the best opinion of Riot at the top end, so I just don't really have anything good to say. That's all.
Yeah, fair enough. I agree. The new commissioner is fucking awful. Okay, junghoon, anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Just the casters and everybody working at LCS as well as Alienware. As a fan of the LCS since I was in 6th grade, I've grown up watching the league entirely, and so yeah, it's just kind of disheartening to hear all these things. But thank you to everyone for all the amazing content that you guys are putting out there, and can't wait to tune in for the next show.
Well, hey, let me tell you this before you leave, because I know we just talked about a lot of depressing stuff. Look, I know that we all sit around and we go, oh man, LCS viewership is down this spring or whatever. This shit still gets so many fucking viewers compared to so many other things out there, other esports, other game things. I don't know, if this is going to get, if we'll get to a place where it's online only. That would obviously be terrible. And who knows what the future is, but people do like watching LCS, as much as all the EU people will come in and they'll be like, oh, fucking dying league, blah blah, this shit's getting a lot of fucking views relative to so many things on Twitch, and so yeah, I don't know if it can continue to sustain paying millions of dollars out to teams every year, or if it can continue to sustain traveling to to some other city and filling out an arena twice a year. But I do think that the LCS is going to continue to be a thing for a long time, in some form or another, and you'll get to continue to watch competitive league esports with cool players in it that are competing in North America. So I don't think that the future, even if we're in a really rough spot now, and even if I can't promise that oh yeah, we're going to get back to spring finals will be in, I don't know, Staples Center or something, I do firmly believe that league esports will continue to be a thing for a long time, and that the LCS, or at least North American players, will continue to play a role in that for a long time. So nobody needs to assume that LCS is not going to exist in some form or another next year,
No, for sure. I think it just, highlights to me that at least I know that, in my financial situation, the fact that I can afford to do so, I should continue to support creators. So if you've got those Twitch Primes, use it on TGI.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you for the
Smooth.
promotion. I'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm like a true broadcaster.
Yeah. Okay. We got 2 more callers.
I got one more, unless you want me to go pull another.
Or one more. No,
there are a
you're
couple
right.
spoilers.
One more. Sorry.
Okay.
We're
ran out a little bit more.
also over time, yeah, so it's fine.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Off he goes. Palafox, I promise it's not normally this depressing. Just hard. It's just hard whenever a lot of us have know people that have gotten laid off today.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say anything, but I just know that I'm just sad at some of the people I know laid off, because I know that they were amazing at their job.
Yeah.
And it's just
Oh,
that
man.
part to me is depressing.
Yeah, I feel you there. I know I'm just popping back in, but oh man, a couple people really had a big impact on me, and it's really sad. I know they put a lot into this, so
Yeah. I don't know. You know what? It's just as a random tangent. I was looking at the list and I see so many people I know and really like. And then the crazy thing is, Graham McNeil got laid off, and Graham McNeil is a dude who wrote one of the best video game things I've ever read, which was in college I read a book. Do I have it on this bookshelf? I don't think I have it on this bookshelf. Like a StarCraft 2 book called I Minsk that this guy wrote. And I wrote him a letter about like an email, and I never do this. This was, again, back in college or whatever, about how good his book was. And then I was so excited when Riot hired him, and I think I even did like a video about it. And I just see him on the list, and like and I have like a weird relationship with Riot lore because I get frustrated that they change it so often. I think Mark and I talked about that last year. But like the top comment is about him getting let go, and I'm just like, agreed. Like, it's so frustrating. I know somebody in the chat earlier was like, well, actually, layoffs are not about the person, they're about the company. But like, that doesn't change the fact that it feels fucking bad to see all these people who are so talented get laid off, you know? So, I don't know. Anyway, back to the calls. We have a caller here. Caller, what's your name and where are you from?
You can call me Takeutchi. I'm calling from Chicago.
Calling from Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago.
I will be there this time next month for Magic Con in Chicago. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, so my take was, fingers crossed everything goes well. The future of the league looks really good. Sniper, Busio, Masu, and other talents look pretty good. And other NA talents going to be a great move. And then I think it kind of shows that LCS teams got to stop spending so much money trying to find either the next Berserker, finding a tier 2 import, things like that. And then spend more money on coaches and NA talent and less on boomerang imports. That and or even any of the Latin leagues, bring them in and things like that. It'll just be a lot better for the ecosystem.
Palafox, what did you think of Jensen's? Did you see his like comments on the show about how Korean imports are like kind of overrated?
I mean, I kind of agree, but I think it's like let's say a Korean import in the role of AD where you don't really have to talk too much, I think makes sense, right? I think that, I mean, my idea of how League Pro Play is the most important aspect of it has shifted over the past couple of years to like communication is literally the most important thing. If you can all have the same brain, you would win worlds, you know, because then you know exactly like what to do, and honestly, like communication's only a bridge to that. I don't really think imports and other roles really work out too much, and however, there is some. All right, it's not all imports are bad. There is some like Korean imports that do work out. I think River is a good example of one. I think that Impact is a really good example, and Core is another. Like the problem with it is that these imports have to put in so much effort to actually succeed in our region, because you're not just playing League, you're learning a different language, you're living somewhere else away from your family. It's probably a lot harder to like actually be successful here than it would be to like try to actually play in Korea. And European imports probably work out a little bit more because, you know, there's not that like language barrier. There might be a cultural one, but that's not nearly as big of an issue.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, I can somewhat relate to this because like there was a time in my life where I had an offer to go work the LCK, right? I guessed it on the LCK in summer of 22, and for 23, I pretty much had the opportunity to move to Korea or move here to LA and do NA and try and get some LCS days. I have the utmost respect for Griffin, you know, the kid playing in the T1 system. He is 10 years younger than me and made a decision that I would not have made. Even with like everything that's like happened like with esports winter here in NA. I just knew that myself I would be a happier human if I was able to like live in an English speaking country and be able to go home when I needed to or wanted to. That's a really tough decision. I couldn't make that. Like I feel for like imports that are coming in here, you know? Like that's a really tough decision. I know some players that do it, and I know some players that, like, you know, support family back home. They're like coming here. I think that's really cool. Like really motivating. I think that, you know, I love when like anyone adds to the history of the league. I think it's great to have people like, you know, Bjergsen and Jensen be a part of the history. Like Core JJ, Somedays Impact, you know, have had a huge part to play in NA. And a lot of people have like made homes here. That's great. I I wrote a big thread when Mask was announced for IMT, just about like how can we support imports if everything is dwindling, you know, in terms of like money and resources, right? And I think it's really difficult to do that. And also, I do agree with like the back half of like this caller, and while we have Palafox here, I don't know. My theory on like I think that there are a lot of things that went into your guys' success in summer, but I think the biggest takeaway that I had, or like thing that I enjoyed, is that I think there's legitimate value in your team from last year. Like, I can't imagine how valuable it is in a playoff match to like be Dokla and after a game be able to talk to Soaz. You know, like it's really tough to have people in the building be able to relate with people that are like competing on a big stage like that. I can only imagine the value of that. And it wasn't just top lane, right? Like it was all of you guys. Like you had coaches that like went through, like they were successful in League at some point, like in one variety or another. And to be able to talk with them and then put everyone's heads together about like, hey, what was good, what was bad, what can we work on like for the next game within 15 minutes, like that's a pretty powerful asset to have within your team. And like from the outside looking in, I definitely saw that as a unique advantage that you guys had. And I'm sure you can kind of speak more on that, Palafox, but I'm sure like that was really helpful to like have people that were in your shoes at some point to like be able to talk with and relate to.
I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head. I think it's like with Soaz, I think that, or I mean, especially like Soaz and Dokla's opinion. You hear all these stories about like players not really respecting coaches, but like, how can you not respect people who have literally made world finals? Or like,
yes,
for me with Tanner, it's like he made worlds, and honestly, it's like a lot of it that I saw from other teams was like, a lot of players do have confidence issues, and coaches even help out with things like that. You know, it's like, no, it's okay. Like, just try to like refocus in this way, right? Like that's like a common framing that you'll hear. And a lot of players don't really get that support. So I don't know. Sometimes people just get in their own heads, and it really does help to have this.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I will say that as an aside, I know the caller kind of opened by saying that the rookies looked all like we're happy about the rookies. I thought that actually the rookies played decent week one, minus Castle. But you know, we'll kind of go on from there. I thought like both Misha and Masu actually had decent showings, and XU had a really big game against IMT. Yeah, I think that there were that's good too. That's a good shout.
People already know. I saw a bunch of people in the chat saying like, "Oh, this is a Travis plant or something." I did not pull this person. Cubby did. People already know my opinion on this stuff. Other than the fact that I will just reiterate, because every time this comes up, people leave shitty comments about, "Oh, Travis is like xenophobic," or he really cares what country you're born in. I have no problem with players coming here from other places. I have a problem with how often we send them back from here. Like that is, I think, the issue. If we were able to implement a system wherein the players who come here are more incentivized to stay, or if teams who bring them over have some sort of risk and they can't just be like, well, let's just fucking slam the slot machine until we get the Korean lineup that we really like. That's the stuff that I think is really bad for the league. And it's bad for the players, and it's bad for the fans, and it's bad for the teams. And it's annoying to me that I feel like people think that I am this crazy old man that's sitting on a stoop somewhere ranting about and raving about something that's not even like real. And I'm just like, how?
So unironically, like that's actually the other takeaway I had from NRG's success this past year, is that in the old LCS, when promotion relegation was a thing, you had to keep 3 out of the 5 players in your roster the same. And I know that like with NRG, like what you guys did, and I know that Jonathan was talking about this, Palafox, like you guys made changes, but it was never like overhauls, right? It was like, hey, like we're gonna swap out, like you pretty much kept the core of you 3 together, changed bot lane like once and now twice because Ignar like wanted to go back to you, but it was like, hey, we feel like we need to do this to get everyone else here.
Dude, that's
And
my
it wasn't
fucking point.
like-
They would still
Yeah,
have
exactly.
the full lineup
Yes.
right now, by the way, if Ignar hadn't been like, finally, I could get the fuck out of this region and go back to Europe. Like, all
part of it's
respect
true,
to
but, like-
Ignar. He gets to do what he wants to do. It's fine. I get
Yeah.
it. But, like, that's the kind of shit that drives me crazy.
Well, part of it's true, but like how many times did TL just be like, all right, like we're like after like they won 4 in a row, it's like, okay, completely new roster, right? And like each year, right? Or like a lot of different pieces each year. Like Core's been the same, but a lot of other things have changed around Core, right? Like I actually feel like if the 3 out of 5 rule was still in place, that would encourage teams to be smarter about who they import, you know, in case they do want to get out.
I can actually speak on something about this that I learned. A lot of teams, I don't want to say this with too much certainty, so you can take this with a grain of salt, but I've been hearing more things shifting this way. But a lot of teams think that their only like brand is winning, so they want to win right now, which is a very unhealthy mindset.
Yes.
And it is a lot of teams that feel this way, right?
Yes.
I mean, I don't think you're saying anything that people don't know, Palafox. Like, I appreciate you're trying to be, like, candid about that, but, like, that
No,
is...
it means more coming from you, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I could say it means more from you.
I mean, really, it's like, I truly don't think that there's many bad players in the league. You know, I think that players, like, everybody can grow, you know? I think that a lot of it really is just, like, the people you're around, and I don't know, like, I don't know how to describe it other than, like, I just think that team owners just consistently make bad decisions because they want to win right now, and it's just, I mean, it's a little bit disgusting, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
This is why we need you to say this on the podcast, Palafox. We can get some heat, you know, post LCS. Just go on there after a 2-0 NRG week, put some team owners on blast, you know?
To be clear, it's not just the team owners. I think it also extends out to the fans and how quickly they are willing to write off a player who is having a bad split on a bad team. Like the Immortals thing, we've talked about it before. Like players that go there historically have underperformed dramatically their peak performance. They will go there and play worse than they had before, and then they will leave that team and suddenly play better. And fans then just say, "Oh, this player's bad. Don't fucking sign him." And then like the teams like usually agree with that sentiment. And by the way, I think it's not just the teams, it's also the players on the teams, right? Like I've heard a lot that players will be like, "Oh, I don't want to play with that guy. He sucks." Because like, look how bad he was last split. And it's like, yeah, but like, what was the environment that he was in?
Yeah.
So it's like across the board, I think that the league, the fans, the teams, and the players in the league do not do a good enough job of considering, like, of thinking long term, which is very ironic given the whole premise of franchising was finally we can think long term.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if we're just gonna, look, I don't think that we need to bring back promotion relegation necessarily, or at least not in the way that it was previous. But it is hard whenever I'm like, okay, you guys are just acting as if it still exists. You know, most teams do not want to take the long go at it. And like the sad thing is, I actually think EG and GG were two teams that historically had been down to take a longer timeline on stuff and to think about it, and they found success doing that, and then they found a lack of success by exiting the league.
I mean, the thing with EG that was like crazy to me is I don't know what offers like Peter Dunn as an example got, but the fact that like we lost a coach that took rookies and actually made like a cohesive team together, like to win finals, right? And then EG kind of implodes and then he goes back to Europe. There's no other NA team that's like willing to like pay money for him over paying for like a better player is like crazy to me.
I mean, Anero is a similar situation, right? Where like it's a bummer that he hasn't found an LCS team. I think he's doing stuff with DSG right now, but he's also somebody who has like a really great track record and is currently not an LCS person. So I don't know. Anyway, again, we're excited about the beginning of LCS. I promise I'm not the only thing that's like pushing. if Mark, if you watch this video, which I know you probably won't, or if you're watching the stream, it's Bummertown after the day after the opening weekend of LCS, mostly because the fucking company laid off 11% of its people, and there's some other sad stuff. So
that's all Mark's fault, by the way. We blame, he's the figurehead. We're supposed to blame the commissioner for this.
True.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, caller, for your take. Anything you want to shout out before we say goodbye?
Yeah, well, a couple things. I just wanted to add one thing to what everyone said. I didn't want to jump in there. Not a Travis bot. I actually do believe in this. I mean, especially from like the previous caller in terms of like money, cost. LCS just cut a bunch of people. Things like that obviously are like we need to be more efficient. But then just like what Palafox said, there are coaches that are gone that would be really helpful to cultivate a lot of players. Like watching TL and Shopify Rebellion have like 2 coaches to 1 type of thing. Like that was kind of awkward, like type of thing. Like you could afford coaches if you're just more efficient on some other things. But I do agree that like imports are great, but it's not always helpful for the how much money we have right now. But anyway, shout out to Alienware, always an awesome sponsor and everything. Shout out to Travis and Cubby, been a long-time listener, first-time caller. Appreciate y'all. And shout out to Palafox. Can't wait for you to win another championship this year.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time. So I saw some criticism of people saying we didn't talk enough about games from week 1. Cubby, were there many takes about week 1 games?
There were not a lot of takes about week 1
so
games.
So like this is what I'm talking about, folks. Like you all set the tone for the show. If you want us to talk about week 1 games, call in with a take. Like I think Cubby would have wanted to pull that.
I was reviewing. I was getting ready. I was taking my notes.
Yeah.
We were ready to go.
So if you guys want that, be the change you want to be the change you want to see on Hotline League, and if you want the show to talk about something, talk about it. Also, I had some guy in the comments last week be like, "Fuck you! You always say that we should call in, and then you never give us any information." I say this very often. The show's available on my Twitch channel, which I often promote on Twitter. It's on my link tree. There's a schedule on the Twitch page that says when the show is supposed to happen. Obviously, it moves around every now and then. But once more, Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific. That is when this happens. You can join the Discord, discord.gg/Travis. If you do that, you'll also see updates about when the show's taking place. You'll see the topics. You can go look in the topics chat and be like, "Oh, Cubby ignored this amazing take about the weekend." And then you can tweet at him and he'll be like, "Dude, I'm busy working another job right now. I can't deal with this."
Also, I will say, like, if you actually want to talk about week 1, maybe don't make your take that C9 isn't a super team after they 2-0'd and beat NRG, one of the stronger teams in the league. It's probably just a bad take, and I don't want to hear that. Wait for an 0-2 week,
I mean, you can sometimes pull those. Mark would pull those sometimes just so that we could beat them down.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I'm honestly, I'm not one to punch down, but maybe.
No, sometimes you just have to I do like that hot Palafox. What the?
Sorry.
I do like that. Sorry, podcast listeners, you missed something very interesting. I do like that. I lost my train of thought. I don't remember.
All right, I'll pull a couple stinkers next time, so we get to have some fun. I think that's what.
Oh yeah. The Hotline League is supposed to represent the full breadth of humanity for League of Legends LCS fans, and sometimes you have to pull the crazies just so that we have representation of them here. Anyway, that's the show. Cubby, you want to do shout outs? What do you want to plug?
Yeah. I actually worked on a really cool piece this last week. It ran on the LCS, and it was kind of to promote Challengers League. And part of that story was actually Palafox. I don't know if you remember this, Palafox, but after you won Academy in 2020 for the second time, you said that your goal was to be the best NA mid at Worlds. And I just wanted to say congratulations, because I think you did that this last year. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if you realized that or not, but I think that's pretty awesome that you guys pulled it off.
Yeah, I do. I do remember that.
Okay, yeah. There
Yeah.
you go. So yeah, best of luck now with doing it again. It might be harder to do it twice, but good luck, man.
Quick-
I'm rooting for you guys to split, and I thought that it was a 1-1, but you guys had a decent showing. I think that the dig game, you guys that's the game I kind of expect you guys to play, where Contracts and Hui get to play fast. So yeah, I'm glad you guys were able to support that, and good luck for the rest of the season. It was really nice talking with you.
Quick question: was Champions Queue broken again tonight?
There were some games that played, but no games are currently active.
Because I asked, or because earlier tonight, Kobe told me I was going to hear him streaming through the wall, and I didn't hear him at all. So I guess I just realized Twitch is playing. Sorry, I didn't hear him at all. So I was like, did Champions Queue break again?
Yeah, only 2 lobbies popped tonight.
Is that just because there weren't enough people?
Yeah. But it is on 14.2, so if the pros want to take advantage of playing on the patch that they will be playing on earlier in the week, I think that it's intelligent for them to queue up.
Palafox,
Yes,
I
that
know
is
you had an
true.
excuse, but why do you think people didn't queue up?
Me?
Yeah, I'm saying you had an
Oh,
excuse.
oh.
Why do you think other people didn't queue up? You're working.
Oh. I don't know. I think it's that, at least for our team, we didn't really have an off day for like 2 or 3 weeks. So I think it's just nice to have one finally. But like tomorrow I'm going to be queuing up. I hope other pros are queuing up. I really want to get some games on the new patch. I don't really care about solo queue. Like, I don't want to hit higher ranks if it's not actually good practice. So yeah, I hope they all queue up.
Tomorrow, right? I think Champs Queue is
Yeah,
Monday,
tomorrow,
Tuesdays. Yeah. Okay, cool. What do you want to shout out, Palafox?
Shout out to you guys for asking me to come on the show. Shout out to Alienware for supporting you guys. And shout out to the fans and everybody supporting us. I think it's just last year was a great year. And hopefully this year's even better. So
Okay. Shout out to you for being a great guest. Really appreciate it.
I love you, Palafox.
Oh God. I was about to say, Cubby, thanks
And there was
for
a
being
fan just busted in my room. Who
I
was
was
that?
about to say, Cubby,
Who was
thanks for being
that?
a great co-host, and then you let some person just shove their
Just
way
some
into your microphone,
random.
into your
Yeah.
studio.
Oh, that would never happen at a Hotline League live show.
Yeah, thank you. Anyway, shout out to Palafox for being a great guest. Thank you to Cubby for being a great co-host. And also, shout out to all the Riot folks who got hit today. I know we talked about it earlier and a couple times throughout the show, but like truly some really cool people and very talented people are now looking for work. And I am happy that Riot is giving them 6 months of severance, because that's like a really generous severance package compared to a lot of the stuff that's been out there, but it still feels... I mean, I experienced this at Yahoo. Like when you show up and you're just told you don't have a job, and you don't get to work with the people that you like working with, you don't get to work on the thing that you're really excited about, suddenly your email is like deactivated and shit. It's just like really upsetting.
It sucks eggs.
So heart goes out to them. So anyway, thanks for everyone. That's been Hotline League. Hopefully a more positive episode next week after we're done with week 2 of the LCS. We'll see you Monday.